So for this tree, I'm simply going to go to the black alder folder, which we just imported. And I'm just going to go down to geometry, pivot painter. You can just choose any of these trees. I just like this one personally. So I'm just going to be placing it right there. Let's just go to this viewport. Okay, so it's way too large for now. Let me go to unlit for this so that we have better performance. I think something like that should be a good position. Let me just scale it down though. How about something like that? Move it up. And I think we are looking good. Perfect. So if I just go ahead and switch back to path tracing again, you're going to see that this whole scene looks pretty realistic. And all right, so now let's begin with the next part, which is going to be the lighting, because obviously this scene looks pretty flat, and the scene which we want it to look like is this. All right, so one thing which I'm noticing right now is that the scale of this, the overall scale of this scene is a lot higher. For example, the grass in this is a lot larger, and therefore the scene looks a lot smaller. So what I would recommend you to do if you're wanting to make something more like this, then I would recommend you to actually basically go away from the tree and then make larger mountains, and then you can just go ahead and add small grass to that with a lot of density. So that's going to make your whole scene look a lot wider and a lot bigger, right? So I'm just going to do yeah, so you can just do that if you want, but I think for this scene, this perspective is fine. All right, so now let's go ahead and start with the lighting. So firstly, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back to lit mode. Let's just go to my camera, Cine Camera Actor, pilot this. And so before we start working on the lighting, let me just go ahead and add, first you just save your project. Let me just go ahead and add a post-process volume. So I'm just going to go to add visual effects and post-process volume. I'm just going to be bringing it down so that it's not visible. And then I'm just going to search for infinite, of course, because we want it to affect the whole scene. And now I'm just going to go to exposure. Let me just set the exposure to manual. And the exposure compensation, we're going to be setting it manually. So 10, not 10, 11, something like, actually, you know what? Maybe 10 should be fine. Or let's try 11, you know what? Let's go back to path tracing. Okay, so it is a little overexposed, so we might change it later on. However, for now, I think this is fine. And all right, so now let's change the position of this directional light. So currently we have the directional light at, I'm just gonna get out of my camera in this scene so that we can yeah, so that we can basically move our directional light. If I just go ahead and select this directional light and then go to this viewport, I don't really see it. Where is it? All right, so I'm just gonna be selecting my directional light, and here you can see that here it is. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna be bringing it closer to the scene so that we can easily edit it from just one viewport. I'm just going to place it right there, and I'm going to go back inside my Cine Camera Actor. So you're going to see that this thing right here is basically visible inside our viewport. So inside our camera frame. Let me just go back to path tracing, and so I'm just going to be using path tracing for this. I've just decided that because obviously it looks a lot better, to be honest. And let me just turn off rotation snapping. And so now obviously this part is where your creativity comes in. Because obviously I can't tell you, there's no correct lighting, there's no wrong lighting. There's only personal preference. So I would recommend you to just come up with your own ideas. And so the scene which I showed you in the beginning was something like this. And so this looks similar. Of course, there is some post-processing done in that. So I think something like that should be good. How about that? I think it looks pretty realistic. The grass looks very good. And yes, obviously it is a little different from that because the temperature of this is very warm. So let me just go ahead and tweak the temperature. I'm just going to go back to my post-process volume. And here you can just simply go down to color grading, global, and we can, firstly, I'm just going to increase the contrast. So something like 1.2. Actually, I think 1 should be fine because the scene already has a lot of contrast. And now I can just simply go down, go up to this temperature. And the temperature, I'm just going to be setting it pretty high, something like that. And right now we have this greenish tint on this, on the scene. First, let me make sure that I don't have my night filter turned on. Exit it. And so I'm just going to set this tint to slightly to the pink side so that we basically avoid that green thing. And yeah, I think it looks pretty similar. The only thing which the only reason why there is a slight bit of a difference in the colors is because of the fact that we are using path tracing. In this, it looks pretty similar. However, if I just go ahead and increase the screen percentage to 100%, now you're going to see that it's going to look a lot better. And yeah, so that's basically how you create the scene. And you can simply go ahead and also increase basically the gain of the shadows, which means the brightness of the shadows, to make the scene a lot more high dynamic range. So that's an option for you as well. And let me go ahead and make sure that ray tracing is turned on, because in a lot of scenes, if you turn it on, it makes a huge difference. All right, so it is already turned on, and perfect. All right, so I think our scene looks pretty good as it is. However, I'm just going to go ahead and reduce the fog density. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that the sky is a lot more clear, and you can also tweak the direction light if you want. But again, I'm just going to leave this down to your personal preference. You can just do whatever you think looks best. This line in the middle, this shadow in the middle looks pretty decent, I think. Or you can go with something like this as well, if that's what you like. I think that looks pretty good as well. Yeah. And all right, so this is if you want sort of like a sunny scene. If let's say you want an overcast scene, I'm just going to show you how to do that as well. Let me just undo it. I think something like that should be good. And now let's go ahead and make this sort of like an overcast scene. So I'm just going to go to my sky atmosphere 0, and inside this you have this thing called my scattering scale. If I just increase this, you're going to see that this is basically going to sort of like it's going to put like diffuser on top of the sunlight, if you know photography terms. Basically what that means is that it's going to add like a damping layer to that, so that the light is not that sharp, you're going to see. And I think something like I think in overcast day it does not look good in this scene specifically, but you have that option if you want. Let me just bring it down. You can do it like this as well. You can even add a man. You can make a man be standing. So yeah, actually let me just show you how to do that as well. You can just simply go to Mixamo to get some characters. Just go to mixamo.com. If you follow me on Instagram, then you'll know that I use a lot of these characters, and I think it's pretty fun. I make them dance usually and do weird stuff, so I think that looks pretty good. And so you can just go to mixamo.com and you can sign up. I'm gonna log in. All right, so right now I'm inside Mixamo, and if I just go to characters, you're gonna see that we have a lot of these cool characters which you can get to which you can bring into your scene. Now most of them are pretty stylized. They don't look that realistic. However, some of them do look pretty realistic, so you can use them in your realistic scenes as well. So the one which I use is this one. Actually no, I don't think I used that one. Actually let me use this one right now, so I mean, who cares. Yeah, so this was the one which I was using in most of my scenes. Yeah, so you're gonna see that this is a pretty good looking character. This is a pretty it's a pretty decent model. It is somewhat realistic as well. If I just zoom in, you're gonna see that it's not that bad. I mean, it's pretty good. So now we can add animations to this as well. Either you can just download this as a character, or you can add animations. So if I just go to animations, and now you're gonna see that we have all sorts of animations. If I search for dance, you're gonna see that it's gonna have a lot of these fun dances. Let me just open this booty hip hop dance. Let's see how it looks. So the animation just loaded, and I think it looks it looks pretty good. So if you like this, you can just simply download this, and yeah, make sure to be sure to like tweak these settings, because right now when it touches the hips, it doesn't really touch those hips. So the arm space is a little too high, I think. Let me reduce that. Yes, a tad bit less. So obviously you have to go ahead and do some trial and error. Now I think it's fine, maybe a little less. And yeah, you can just basically tweak all these settings. I think that's fine. You can tweak the stance. Yeah, so this is basically going to modify the stance a little bit. And yeah, you have all these settings. So you can just, once you are satisfied with the animation, what you can do is you can simply, actually one problem which I'm noticing right now is that it's a little too back. So maybe reduce the overdrive. Maybe increase it a little bit. I think that's fine, yeah. So I'm just going to be downloading this now. Now, the first time you're downloading a character, you're going to have to download it with skin, because obviously you need the character model as well. And that's going to be a larger download, but not that large, of course. It's going to be like 40-50 megabytes. But yeah, once you have that character, you can simply download other animations, and that's gonna be without the skin. So because you already do have the rigged model, so you can just add animations on top of that. So I'm just gonna wait for it to complete download, and then I will see you. All right, so now it has almost completed downloading, and so I'm just gonna go back to Unreal Engine, and let me just create a new folder inside this content. I'm just gonna call it man underscore. Let me just call it man. I mean, yeah, inside this man folder, I'm just gonna be importing this FBX. Now, I would recommend you to actually make your own, make a folder and then import it in that, because obviously it's going to come with the textures and everything. So yeah, now make sure that the skeletal mesh is turned on. And yeah, if for example, you are basically importing an animation, then you have to make sure that you select the skeleton of this, this model. But right now we are importing the model as well, so we don't need to worry about that. Just wait for it to import. It is going to take a bit, and it's done. All right, so now you're going to see that we have all this stuff, and the only thing which we are concerned about is this skeletal mesh. So I'm just going to be importing this right there, something like that. And of course, the scale is way too high. Maybe something like that. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be I'm going to be hiding that tree for now. Of course, if you want to add that tree, then you can feel free to do that. But right now, we're adding this man. All right, so now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be making this dance. And so the way we do that is by simply creating a level sequence. Just click this button right here, add level sequence, and I'll just name it whatever you want and save it. Right, so you're going to see that we have this level sequence in our scene. If I just bring the content browser up, you're going to see that we have this level sequence. Now, whichever thing you want to animate in Unreal Engine 5, you have to bring that into the level sequence first. So for example, if I was to animate my camera, I would bring that inside my inside my sequencer. But right now I'm just going to import I'm just going to be animating this right here, this guy. So I'm just going to be bringing this, dragging this inside this sequencer. And now I can just simply go ahead and press plus on animation, and we only have one animation right now, and that is this one. So if I just add that, you're going to see, if I move it up, you're going to see that it's going to be playing. So it's as simple as that. And so let me just rotate this. You can of course place it however way you want, and let me bring it up, something like that. Let's try to play it. Yeah, so I think that looks pretty funny. And yeah, so that's basically it, guys. I really hope this animation is funny and it's not lame, because it is super funny. And yeah, you can even loop this animation. You can bring it forward, but obviously it's gonna snap back to the original position, so I don't think that's really useful. In some animations, however, some animations are a perfect loop, so you can loop them over and over and over again, especially the ones in which your character is staying on a single plane, right? In this one, it's moving, so yeah, you can't really loop that. And yeah, so once you're satisfied with this animation, you can simply set the render region, just bring it right there, and then you can simply press this button right here to render it, and it's going to render as an image sequence, which you can then convert into a video in any editing software, for example Premiere Pro or any other software which you want. So yeah, I'm just going to save that, press save all, and yeah, just be sure to save your whole scene. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one, guys. We added this tree, we added that man, and yeah, actually, you know what, one thing which I forgot was to add the mountains at the back. So what I'm going to do for that is that I'm simply going to go back to add Quixel content, and we're going to be adding, I'm just going to search for mountain, go down, and yeah, so we have this thing right here, gigantic sandstone terrain, and you can just simply download whichever quality you want. I'm just going to be downloading medium quality, and I'm just going to close the sequencer for now, because of course we don't really use it. And I'm just going to be hiding that man for now as well. And so now we have this gigantic sandstone mountain right here. I'm just going to be placing it. You're going to see that it's actually gigantic and it's pretty large. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be increasing the camera speed quite a lot, because we need to be able to place this properly. And so let me just move it back. It's not there. Let me just move it right there. And of course, we're going to be bringing it pretty back. Let me rotate it like that. Let's bring it up a little bit. Now, right now, the problem with this is that it's way too clear, and because of the fact that we don't have any fog, I might be adding some fog in it. And I'm just going to be duplicating it and rotating it. The way I duplicated it was by holding Alt and moving it. Right, so I think that looks pretty decent. However, the problem is that right now it's way too clear and it looks bad. So I'm just going to be going ahead in my exponential height fog, and I'm going to be increasing the fog density a tad bit, something like that. Oh, and if, for example, it's not affecting it that much, then we can simply go ahead and take them back quite a lot. And of course, we can scale it up as well. All this comes from trial and error, so I would recommend you to spend some time tweaking the settings and everything, and then you would come up with ideas and ways to do things. I think that looks pretty decent. However, again, we might have to increase the height fog a little more. So something like 0.1. And yeah, another thing which I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to go down to volumetric fog, and let me just turn that on. Now you're going to see that the whole scene is going to look a lot more realistic. And of course, we're going to have to turn the strength down as well. So I think that looks pretty decent. All right, so now this was this whole scene. I would probably reduce the strength of this, the height fog a little bit because it looks a little fake. But of course, that comes down to your personal preference. And yeah, that is basically it for this guy. This is the path tracing view, and this is the lit view. I of course prefer the path tracing view by a lot. And yeah, the way you render out things in with a path tracer is by simply letting this bar complete. Once it is complete, you can just simply go to this these three lines right here, high resolution screenshot, and make sure to set this screenshot multiplier to 1. If you set it higher than that, then what's going to happen is that your scene is going to start rendering again, and it's going to render out a very noisy image. So I would recommend you to set your screen percentage to 100% and make sure to make your viewport the largest before actually rendering it, so that you get the most resolution. And yeah, so that's basically it for this one, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you learned something new. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.